The strategic reasons for us to be in this space are a couple. The first is this space matters in culture for us, right? So in the beverage alcohol industry, if your brands are not in culture, they're not going to grow. They're not going to be relevant for consumers. And so the past year and a half, 2 years, this space has been a vibrant force in culture. So that's been important for us. The second thing that we've looked at Web3 for is really how we accelerate our approach to reaching that modern luxury consumer, just luxury in general. We do sell liquids that are over $150. Some of them are thousands of dollars a bottle. So thinking about how we use the technology to verify authenticity and ownership to reach those consumers. And the last thing I would say would be just looking at the space to think about how we innovate and create new business models, monetize our brand IP. You know, our brand IP, these are legacy brands, 200 plus years old. So how do we think about creating new levels of utility for the consumer? So we've done that in a few different ways. I shared the Johnnie Walker example, but we've also, in our marketing on a brand like Crown Royal, we've created digital collectibles of the actual Crown IP, the digital crown, as a way for consumers to give back. So Crown is a very purpose-driven brand. They do things in the community to support veterans, and they have this traditional brand mechanic where they invite consumers to pack a Crown Royal purple bag, and they give that purple bag back to the service members in the veteran community. So we did this mechanic where if you minted a Crown digital collectible, the brand would pack a purple bag and send that to service members abroad. So it was just a way for us to incorporate Web3 into a traditional marketing mechanic and to amplify that in a new way.
You know, I think when you think about it internally, you have to be thinking about how much are you willing to invest into this, and also how much buy-in you have from the top level, right? I think a lot of the conversations that I have with a lot of major brands start to hit a wall, and they get frustrating because you know, you could have that team internally really leaning into the product, but if you don't get it at the highest level of, you know, the CEO on level down, right? Like, you're not gonna get that buy-in that needs to happen of understanding that this is a fundamental shift that's happening. And the beautiful part of it is that you can then, even from a brand perspective, right? And I think we've been focusing on it from a consumer perspective, is being able to then take those rails and take that data that you have, and you're not necessarily tied to one system, right? Like, and I'll take something as simple as a membership rewards program of saying, okay, this membership rewards structure doesn't work for us anymore. We can now export this into a new structure that maybe works for us going forward. And so I think a lot of that conversation needs to happen internally. I think personally, a blend of the two probably works best, because there are best practices in the industry that, you know, people that are down in the trenches every single day understand better than people that actually have to go and execute on it and sell it to their superiors. So I personally think that combination of the two works best. But I definitely am more excited when I see buy-in happen from the top.
Yeah, and I think definitely same with us. I think, you know, we have a culture of innovation at Diageo, and so we have license from our CMO and our leadership to go out and experiment, to test and learn. I think we started in this space really with partnerships, right? We do a lot of partnerships in culture. Our brands partner with celebrity talent a lot. In the Web3 space, you mentioned World of Women, which is, you know, a prominent collection. Johnnie Walker partnered with them. Johnnie Walker's purpose is to promote progress. That happened to marry well with the World of Women kind of mission. So we showed up with them at, you know, various events, you know, Art Basel, and, you know, we poured our product, and, you know, we find ways to collaborate. And I think that was a authentic way for Johnnie Walker to get into this space. I think authenticity is the most important thing as you're trying something new. And then once we had built that muscle and brought some of those learnings in-house, then we started to leverage the technology to build, right? And approach our marketing business goals to leverage the technology for how it could help us, right? And so there's a lot to say there, but I think, in short, partnership first, then brought a lot of the thinking in-house.
Yep, I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's super valuable for folks in our audience, because I know we have a lot of CMOs, lots of folks from brands who are just kind of starting to think about their strategies, so really useful insights. I would love to chat a bit about the market state right now. So obviously a lot of the Web3 activations that we heard about as brands were entering the space were at a time when the market looked quite different than it did at this moment in time. NFTs were super hot, everything was pumping. And I think that the motivations of a lot of brands entering the space back then, as a result, just naturally of where the market was, partially some people were in it for a revenue opportunity, partially some folks were in it to stay culturally relevant, which we've identified is still a thing, and some folks just purely wanted to beat their competitors to it as they saw other brands entering into the space. So I'd be curious to hear from you both, like, given the state of the market right now, like, what have you seen change that brands should really be taking into account as they think about their strategies as they're now entering the space? And where should brands be investing their time and their effort right now, particularly in terms of thinking of technology and strategy to have on their radar for the years to come?
I think the most important thing that I'm seeing right now is the innovation that's happening at the startup level in Web3 is definitely a positive level of innovation, in the sense that it's reducing a lot of the confusion associated with Web3 and NFTs in general, tokens, to make it more consumer friendly for an audience that might not really understand the power of the technology or blockchain in general. So a lot of the conversations that we have with startups inside of Diageo and those that can help us build the digital future of our brands, whatever that may be, I think that the positive thing for me is they're almost building for that Web 2.5 consumer, right, that is used to a traditional e-commerce experience and may not be fully ready for Web3 or the nuances of blockchain technology. So for us, that's important, obviously, because we're a portfolio of scale brands, right? We sell millions of cases of our products on an annual basis, on a brand-by-brand basis. So in order to reach the consumers that we need to reach to grow our share by category, we need to be at scale. And so that's the positive thing for me in Web3 right now.
Yeah, and I can say, for interacting from within the community, one of the things that excites me the most is when a brand is coming into the space and not necessarily looking to just sell to the Web3 consumer, and more so expand the category and say, let's introduce the technology to our current consumer. And I think we've seen examples of that probably over the last year, 6 to 12 months, of different brands having different strategies, and depending on those strategies and how much they're willing to open it up. And really, we're coming on the back of Louis Vuitton announcing an NFT drop less than a week ago, right? And so it's going to be very interesting to see how that operates. But one of the things that I really like is that they have the Connect wallet on the Louis Vuitton website, right? And it's not just something that's, oh, we're going to do this to target this small specific market right now. It's more about saying, how do we bring the technology to our current consumer? Because I do think that ultimately this technology, to what Devon was just saying, is something that will scale and will be used by brands over the next 10 to 20 years.
If you are a big brand like we are, make sure you have the right agency partners working with you. Don't pretend you know everything. Make sure you're bringing smart people around you to help you along in your journey. I think that's, being self-aware is important.
Could you please provide just like a piece of advice or recommendation for anyone in the audience who's looking to bring their organization into Web3?
I mean, the first thing that I would say is just obviously be willing to test and learn, right? As mentioned, we have a culture of innovation where our leadership forces us to do that, and we have to do that in order to stay relevant with consumers. And also, if we test and we fail, it's not going to sink our business. Thankfully, we're in a fortunate position to be able to say that. But I think making sure that there is that section of the business that's willing to go out and to try new things and emerging technology. For me, that's Web3, AI, enhanced reality, and some of those things that can help our brands reach consumers in new ways. So making sure that you have somebody like that inside of your organization, I think, is key. Otherwise, the space of technology will move so quickly. We've seen two major inflection points in the last 2 years with both Web3 and now generative AI. It will move so quickly that you will be behind before you know it. So,
yeah, and to add to those points, I think just trying and testing things out for yourself, just bringing up the point of AI, I remember when I first got into NFTs, a lot of it was just me taking some of my own money and just messing around with everything to understand stuff. It's like the numbers were so small, but understanding the concepts really early became really important. And I think we're seeing the same thing with AI in terms of the tool sets that are coming out there, and just mess around with it. Pay whatever the $10 or $20 monthly fees that it is for a lot of this stuff. I ultimately think that NFTs and AI go hand in hand, because in a world where you can make anything on demand, just by thinking about it, you're going to need some sort of authentication feature, which is really what Web3 really leans into. So I would say just going out there, the willingness to learn, the willingness to experiment, to learn from people younger than yourself. I think that has been something that has helped me a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, if you're going to get in, just remember to be authentic to your brand, right? Don't jump in just to jump in. Make sure you're doing it with the right people. Be authentic. Otherwise, the list of brands that have fallen flat is quite long. So be authentic.